That's all right. All right. I have in the room with me. I have my main man.
Not Mr.
Not Mr.
I was gonna say Mr. Kibby.
Oh my
and my co-host Sticker and the Snicker.
Hi, Dr. Johnson. How are you?
All right.
Good evening, Dr. Johnson.
Peace and love, Queen.
All right. So we're gonna start off, man. We're gonna take it back just a little bit, man. We wanna get the listeners, up to date. So first, where did it all begin for you?
It all began for me, I would say, during elementary school. I had a mandatory Black History class during my 4th and my 5th grade years, which was taught by Mrs. Green, African-American member of the community, and I think she inspired me to really get involved into the knowledge of self, of our people, Black consciousness in history. And then I would say right after that, about a year or so, my father took me to my first family reunion, which was in Baltimore, Maryland, where I learned that I was related to the Honorable Frederick Douglass. And so I think the Black History class, along with finding out my relationship to Frederick Douglass, really motivated me to get into a form of struggle or to live my life in such a way where I could benefit our people.
Okay. All right.
So in many ways, I'm a testament. I would say that I am an example of what can happen when African children are taught who they are early in life.
That's powerful for you to say. This is Kerry Digsby, Urban Times Magazine. Brother, good to finally hear from you and hear those words as well. Thank you for that. Thank you for them to learn who they are.
Yes, early on. The mind has to be conditioned early on. The best years to condition a child is birth until age 12. Whoever conditions and indoctrinates that child from birth until age 12 will pretty much govern the unconscious operating mechanism by which that child will run their life for the rest of their days. The problem with us is we give our children best minds to the miseducation machine, to the Catholic school, to the white private school. The best years of indoctrinating a baby are given over to non-African people, and then we, ironically, spend the rest of their life trying to bring them into African consciousness when we allow white folks to give them a European consciousness.
It's interesting. Let me ask you a question, and I definitely feel you in regards to that. And I know your history and a lot of what you do is to definitely encourage our young African-American males. And I know for quite some time you've actually even mentioned how the system itself tends to diagnose a lot of them with either ADHD or even speak about them having special needs. Quick question, in between that, is it the system that is doing that, or is it something that we as parents need to be more aware of and not take it on face value when they say that and do our own research?
Yes, sir. The biggest problem is that we trust the school system. Now, most people would ask the question, why shouldn't a parent trust his or her child's teachers? Well, that answer is rooted in having a nature and understanding, a thorough understanding of the nature of white supremacy. Black people have suffered tremendously because we have trusted white folks on face value. And so what I'm constantly trying to encourage our parents to stop doing is trusting everything white folks say without validation. And what I try to do is I'm trying to bring about a revolution in the thinking of black parents where we don't automatically take at face value what white people say because it's destroying our children. If you ask the average parent, why did you let your child get evaluated for special ed? Most of them will say because the teacher felt it was necessary. Not because they felt it was necessary, but I did this because the teacher said, why is your son on psychiatric medication that's going to cause all sorts of dangerous, irreversible consequences? because the teacher felt it was necessary. Like literally, we literally do whatever they want us to do. And it angers me because I know the outcomes. I know the effects of this. And it's bewildering sometimes how black parents are so easily swayed by white folks who don't care about their children.
Wow, that's a powerful stand right there. That is powerful. Well, okay, let me play devil's advocate. It's Kerry Digsby again. What do we do about the parents that are not involved? Like, say, for example, you have a parent that has a child that has been identified as having special needs, and that parent says, you know what? I don't agree with you. I want to have my own tests done. Matter of fact, I want you to leave my child in that same class, regular class. Let them struggle. Let them go through it. I got a feeling they're going to make it. But then on the flip side, you got another parent who doesn't even go to the PTA meetings, doesn't look at the homework that the child brings home, hardly is involved in the process of the child's life. And like you mentioned, the child has those very important years of growth, but yet they're not contributing to that child's growth at that time. So I guess my question is, do we say that's a system situation, or do we put that responsibility on the African American parent?
Well, it's both. It's both. Now, let's be clear. The system is wrong, because the system should not be selecting, identifying, misdiagnosing, and placing black kids in special ed when they know the reason a child is struggling is because they never taught them. That's criminal. That is absolutely criminal. So the system has primary responsibility. Institutions are created to serve a function. So an individual cannot be more responsible than the institution that is supposed to serve the function. However, when you introduce racism into the equation, and when you introduce the fact that we've been dealing with white folks in this country, in these United States, since 1619, it'll be 400 years in 2 years. On August the 20th of 2019, that will be 400 years of blacks in the 13 colonies. So because we've been dealing with white folks for 4 centuries, and because those white folks have been extremely consistent in their mistreatment of black folks, we don't have excuses anymore for trusting the system. That's my issue. How do you still trust after 398 years of consistent oppression? It's insane. And that's where we have to be held accountable, because we know better. It's like if you walk down the street and you get robbed. And you walk down that street, you get robbed again. And then the third time you get robbed. Now, the robber bears primary responsibility, had no business robbing you, and you were given no knowledge that you would be robbed. But because it has happened already, experience, you should have known you shouldn't have walked down that street. Now, does that mean that you're responsible for being robbed? No. But you do bear some degree of accountability because you've been through this before, and because experience has taught you better, you should have made a better decision.
Yeah,
and that's why we have to hold our people accountable.
I agree with you. And with that analogy, with that robbery, that second time, I wouldn't have gotten robbed again. They would have known me then.
Exactly.
But again, that's equipping yourself though to be prepared for that situation. So like you mentioned, the first time you get robbed, second time you go down there and you're about to get robbed, you're going to be either packing, or you're going to have help, or you're going to alert the authorities to let them know. You're going to be prepared for that situation when you go down there the second time, so there won't be a third time. So I guess I'm kind of playing into that what you were saying, and I definitely appreciate you saying that as well. But somewhere along the line in the thought process, how do we get the parents though to be accountable for their child's involvement? You know, somewhere along the line, even though, like you say, with the system being as flawed as it is, how do we get them to either identify that the system is flawed and make the necessary steps to make sure their child is not deemed special need or having to take Ritalin or ADHD? How do we get them involved so therefore they're not doing that and they're taking other steps, other precautions, so therefore the child can come out and become a productive citizen, an educated citizen, a fully aware citizen?
Well, here's the thing. For me, the parent is not target of intervention. It should be the community itself. Because we do not operate as a community, everything falls on the parents. We got to be very clear about that. In most healthy, functioning communities, it is the community that takes responsibility. They take responsibility for the crime. They take responsibility for parents. They take responsibility for the miseducation of a system, because no one parent, and let's keep in mind, put this in context, 75% of all black kids are raised by single parent mothers, and a significant portion of those mothers are poor. So to ask a single parent poor mother to bear the brunt of the responsibility of effectively looking out for their child, I think that's a bit too much responsibility with the lack of accountability on the community itself. It should be the community. Where are the churches at in this? Where are the community-based organizations at this? Where are the black businesses in this? Where are the fraternities and the sororities in this? Where are the black conscious communities in this? We have too many stakeholders to claim to be about the business of our people. We have too many people collecting money on Sunday for us to always turn around and look at the parent. I do not blame the parents alone. Yes, they must be held accountable, but I also understand that they are operating within a community that is dysfunctional and that does not in any way, shape, or form support our black parents. So when I look at the graduation rates, when I look at special ed rates, when I look at the ADHD rates, when I look at the mental retardation rates, when I look at the juvenile incarceration rates, when I look at the dropout rates, I'm not saying our parents are horrible. I'm saying our communities are horrible.
Well, Dr. Johnson, I can kind of see where you're coming from with that, but it sounds like you are taking the responsibility away from home, and home is where it starts.
The community is where it starts, not the home.
The home is where it starts. You know, I'm a mother, and I believe that it is the mother's duty or the parental duty to be directly involved in your child's life and development, and I don't hold my community accountable for that. That is up to me. Now, it's great to have community support, but at the end of the day, the community is made up of other moms and fathers. That's exactly what it's made up of. Everyone doesn't need to utilize churches or outreach centers and things like that in order to get that. And right, question that CW posed was really just how does the parent actually play into getting more involvement or, helping with the system the way it is set up now as far as diagnosing these babies. You haven't given us a way to do that yet. You're just taking the blame off of the parent and putting it onto the community, and it's not the community's fault at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's up to the parent to raise those children. It's great to have that, and yes, we do say it does take a village, and we do need that, but to say that it does not, that you don't hold the parent accountable, to me is reckless and irresponsible.
Okay. Well, firstly, I don't think you listened to what I said, because I was very clear in stating that parents do bear a degree of responsibility. But I am going to have to significantly disagree with you. My perspective is rooted in African culture, and in African culture, the parents are not the first line. It's the community. In African culture, the elders and the community determine even how families are constructed. The community even determines how the families are constructed. They even determine who can get married. So for me, I totally disagree with the individualistic approach. That is a European narrative. I cannot endorse that at all. I'm going to maintain my position that it is the community that has to unite and create the opportunities for our children. There's no way on earth I'm going to blame single black mothers for what's going on with our children when so many of them are doing the best that they can to raise them on their own. No way I'm going to do that. I just got an email the other day in Washington, D.C., a message went out that the government of the District of Columbia is going to be cutting off over 15,000 single black mothers off of public assistance, which is aid to families with dependent children. What are those mothers going to do? Am I still going to turn around and tell them that it's your fault that your child is underachieving in school when now she probably has to work an additional job to keep the lights on because there is no community infrastructure to take some of the responsibility off of her shoulders so that she don't have to struggle as much? I mean, you're talking about a black community, by the way, that spends $600 million on McDonald's every year, that spends $9 billion on perm and weave every year, that spends $4 billion on alcohol every year. We have enough money coming into our community that our children should all be attending independent African schools. The conversation about special ed shouldn't even exist for black people. The conversation about ADHD shouldn't even exist for black people. The conversation about Ritalin and Adderall and Concerta and Vyvanse and Cyclers and Zoloft, it shouldn't even exist for us, because we live in a community that could take its Christmas money and give black children an independent education. So what makes this so sad is that we even have to have the conversation, because we come from a people who have the financial wherewithal to create a new reality for their children. I will not blame the single mother.
Okay, well, the single mother is not about blaming the single mother. That's not the point of the conversation. Every person or every child with special needs does not come from a broken home. We're talking about the special needs and the system of the children. That's what the question was targeted to. It wasn't about weaves and perms and about Christmas money. It wasn't about that necessarily. It was just saying, you know, hey, how do we, you know, as a people, because you said that the parent is not, or the mother is not accountable, or the parent is not accountable. I'm just saying that's one demographic of the African American community. That's one different demographic of it. But everyone in the African American community who still might go through these issues,
you're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up a
category.
little bit. Okay.
Can you hear, Doc?
You're breaking up a little. I can hear you clearly. She doesn't sound as clearly as you sound right now. I don't know if her mic is. You sound crystal clear. She sounds a little faded out towards the latter part of her comment.
Come on, keep talking.
Let me. You know what? Now, I love the passion that each one of you are bringing to this, and this is important in regards to dialogue, because you get to see each individual, understand each individual. And I kind of understand where you're coming from, sir, in regards to the dynamic. And it's kind of ironic, because when you mentioned it as far as the, you know, how communities were back in African times, in regards to how, of course, the elders dictated as far as, you know, how we were to interject with each other, how we were to marry and such. So let's fast forward then to, of course, you know, we're currently here, 2017, 21st century, and basically, as you mentioned, we have single mothers that are raising kids. We have situations in which fathers aren't stepping up to bat in order to do what they need to do. So of course you have those broken homes. Then you have blended families, and not to mention, you know, even, you know, several of your colleagues have even mentioned, you know, a lot of times when these children are being diagnosed, you know, some of the outlying factors are, you know, some sort of trauma at home, you know. So again, it kind of reflects back to my question as far as the family unit, or how it begins at home. Because let me just share a little something with you. I have a mother and father that are still together after 50 years, and that's a blessing. Okay, my mother and father graduated with a 6th and 8th grade education. Okay, and from that, I was able to, of course, do what I had to do in school. I was hyper. You know, my parents didn't want me to be on Ritalin. They refused it. They let me do what I need to do, and I advanced in my classes. I was actually, when I lived in New York, I was ahead of kids that were in 1st grade. I was going to 2nd and 3rd grade. Okay, I put myself through college. I obtained 2 degrees, all those things, and I've raised 3 sons that in turn are doing the same thing. So again, I'm questioning that, how it's not part of the family to be responsible for the upbringing of the child. If anything, I would think that it's my job to prepare my sons and teach them, so therefore they're not a hindrance or fall into the system or go against the community. Would that be safe to say?
Okay, I don't think you me either, my brother.
No, I
never said parents were not responsible.
I did hear you.
I said the community is more responsible, is what I'm saying. Okay, the fact that you did a good, first of all, your analysis is rooted in your own individual experience. And see, that's one of the problems that we have as black people. We take our own individual narrative and try to treat it as if it was capable for everybody. I cannot sit here as Dr. UMAR Johnson with 6 degrees, okay, with a doctorate, being only 1% of all Americans with a PhD, okay, having never been to jail. I cannot take my narrative and say that this was possible for every black male, because I know it is not. I know when I went through school, I was selected to be in certain programs because my father was there. You just mentioned your parents were married. You benefited from that. That was a privilege you had that other black males did not have. And the only way we can guarantee that they would have ended up like you is if the community would have organized to make sure that there was a safety net for the other black boys so they could have all done as good of a job as you have as a father raising your 3 sons. We have to get out of the European narrative of looking at everything from an individualistic responsibility perspective. Sociology. I'm a psychology major. Sociology deals with group behavior. And one of the first things you learn in the study of sociology is whenever the group works together, a lot of the individual problems that members in that group suffer from will be alleviated. Look at the European Jewish community. Look at the Chinese community. Look at the Arab, the East Indian. Look at the Italian community. They work as a group. It doesn't mean they don't have delinquency. It doesn't mean they don't have some issues. But they're able to safeguard against a lot of the things that black people have because so much of our perspective is rooted in an individual narrative. I'm so tired of hearing it everywhere I go. Well, if parents just take care of their kids, we won't have these problems. But we give the black church $14 million every Sunday, but nobody wants to hold them accountable. Okay? Our tax dollars spend billions in the public school system, but ain't nobody holding them accountable. We got not-for-profit organizations spending millions every year. Nobody holding them accountable. We got a black middle class that has barely done anything for black folks since '65. We don't hold them accountable, but we want to hold the single black mothers accountable. We want to hold the least empowered person responsible for an issue that all of us are responsible for until we engage a mindset that says if a black boy doesn't make it, it's my fault as much as his mother's. If a black girl doesn't make it, it's my fault as much as her father's. When a black kid is killed, I'm out here in Detroit right now looking at schools. You know, I'm trying to build the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Caddy, so I've been looking at schools, and there was a brother who was just killed here. He was over in the Middle East. He did 2 tours of duty over in Iraq or Kuwait or whatever. He came home. He got robbed and was murdered. I guess he tried to defend himself, I think, and he was murdered. This brother should have never even happened. When I hear stuff like that, I'll look at what could I have done differently. We have to embrace a community perspective. This individualistic perspective is rooted in our self-hate as a people and our unwillingness to take accountability and responsibility to each other and for each other.
Well, again, Dr. Johnson, you know, like I said in the beginning, I do beg to differ that it's not at all the parent. It sounds to me like you feel like a single. It sounds to me like you feel like a single parent can't raise a successful individual, or that a kid from a broken home can't go on to do great things, or that just because they have 2 parents they might be better off.
That come from single parents?
No, I'm saying that's what it sounds like to me. That's what I'm saying to you.
Are you aware of the outcomes of children who come from single parented homes?
Are you aware that there are plenty of children that come from single parent homes like myself that go on to college and have degrees and are successful? Now, Dr. Johnson, I gave you the opportunity to talk and I did not interrupt you, but you won't let me finish my statements here without spitting off at your degrees and your social idealisms, and that doesn't have a healthy exchange.
How many black children are raised by one parent? It is not healthy. So I don't want to talk about how single parents raise happy, healthy children, because as a psychologist, a therapist who deals with people in their personal issues, I can tell you that a person coming from a single parent home, whether it was a single mom, a single dad, a single grandmom, or a single grandpa, psychologically they are more likely to have mental illness issues, whether it's depression, anxiety, borderline bipolar, suicidality. Single parentage, although it has become the norm in the black community, is still unhealthy for our people.
No one is disputing that, Dr. Johnson. No one is disputing that for any community. However, You are saying what the numbers show, and the bottom line is there is always an exception to the norm. I come from a single parent home. I went on to be successful. It happens, and my point is that it happens. But why is it that every time I sit here and speak that you can't even let me convey an accurate thought? Why can't I get an accurate thought out before you interrupt me?
Well, you talked over me too.
I did not speak over you. I respected you. Well, it seems to me that you seem to be a bit misogynistic, so I'll just hand the interview back over to the men.
Because I disagree with you, huh? I'm misogynistic. We're not even talking about women's issues, and I'm misogynistic because I disagree with you.
You don't even respect the single mom enough to allow her to have a true thought in the upbringing of her own child. She can't even make the decision on her own. No one even took it away from her, but you're not even, you're trying to absolve her of all responsibility, like she can't make an accurate thought on her own. So yes, that sounds like misogyny.
A preconceived notion of who I am and what I stand for and what I represent.
I don't have a preconceived notion, Dr. Johnson. I have everything that's out here in the literature. I don't have a preconceived notion.
How did misogyny come into a conversation about saving black children?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm as listening to both parties. Here's what I'm understanding. You guys are asking, how can you guys are speaking from a community fixing things. Dr. UMAR Johnson is saying, well, no, Dr. UMAR Johnson is saying that it should be the community based on the past, the teachings that he learned from.
No, not the past, brother. Based on, even if it wasn't the past, based on what works. Everybody operates in community except us. This ain't about some ancient African practice. This is the here and the now. Communities, children do better when they are part of a healthy, functioning community. Period. Whether they black, white, Chinese, or Arab. It's about what works best.
Well, and you know what, Dr. Johnson, I agree with you because two things, and I definitely appreciate, again, the passion that is being exuded by both individuals in regards to this dialogue. And I agree with you. As a community, we can make things work. But let me go back, because originally my question was as far as the responsibility of a parent. I'm not putting it all on the parent, granted. And I'm not putting it all on the community. It is like an onion. There's many layers. And let me tell you this, in regards to as far as the community and individuals in the community working collectively in order to make things happen. There are organizations that do that. There are private organizations that do that. There are fraternities as well. Some that are actually listening right now that even pose that work in the community to help our young African American men. So I kind of want to throw that out there and just let you know that there are some that are doing that. Is it a lot of them? Maybe not. Like with any other race, you have those that are making an effort and you have those that aren't doing so. Those that rather sit on one side of the fence and hope nothing comes over in their yard versus those that don't mind getting in the mud and getting dirty. So I definitely want to make that clear to you, because some of those individuals are actually listening right now, and I've actually worked with several of them. Matter of fact, just finished an event this weekend in which we culminated 10 incredible brothers in the Charlotte, North Carolina area that are doing some incredible things to help our youth here. In spite of the shootings, in spite of what we're dealing with in our own government system and such. I wanted to make that clear, and I wanted to thank you for expressing your thoughts in regards to it. But I also want you to realize that it's not missing. It is here. Matter of fact, it's ironic because I was talking to a young lady who, bear with me, because I was talking to a young lady and she even came to me and she asked me, she said, where are all the programs? And I said, well, sis, here's the programs, and I outlined it to her. And she was like, well, I didn't know that. So again, it goes back to, again, the level of responsibility that one has, to a certain extent. If it's out there, you can get it. You just got to go for it, and there's a lot of programs that are out here that are actually doing things, that are actually going and soliciting.
Yeah, but we're not just talking about programs, my brother. We're talking about community infrastructure, which supersedes programs. Those programs are good. Nobody knows about them more than I. Okay, I work in prisons. I work with the juvenile detention center. I work with the mayors across the country. I know about these programs. And one of the big problems I have with the programs from a nationalist standpoint is most of them are funded by the same system that's mass incarcerating our people. Most of them are funded by the same system that's miseducating our people.
I would have to disagree with you because the programs I'm talking about, they're funded out of our own pockets. So now I'm having an issue in regards to that because the ones that I deal with, I'm coming out of pocket on, as well as some of these other brothers.
And that's fine. I'm not talking about your program, brother.
But that's what I'm. But
here you go again with the individualism.
But you're mentioning, but sir,
are funded by the system,
sir.
Brother.
Let me.
It's not your own program,
brother. You keep mentioning individualism, but you're also mentioning things that you believe. So is that not individualism? I'm mentioning things that I see right out the gate that I'm dealing with here.
The fact. I'm stating a fact.
As was I, Dr. Umar.
Are not funded out of pocket.
Dr.
You
Umar.
said you wanted to make this clear and make that clear. You're not making it clear because I know this program. But what I'm saying is most programs that work for our people are not funded by our people. I commend you. Yours is funded by your group.
Mine, as well as several others, brother. Let me share something with you.
There are several others,
brother. Let me share something with you, if I may.
Most of them are not. That is a fact. That is not an opinion. It is a fact. Most programs in the black community are funded by white sources. So that is a fact.
Okay, so let me ask you this, if I may. And that's very interesting that you mentioned that. And there was a question that I had, and I'm curious as well in regards to your academy, because I think that's a wonderful idea as well. And I know you're trying to put that together right now. So, for example, when the academy comes to fruition, we're going to say it's going to come to fruition because it's something positive that needs to occur. So if it comes to fruition, how would it be able to sustain itself?
How will my academy be able to sustain itself the same way private schools all across America sustain themselves? I mean, there's no secret to how you do that. You fundraise, you have tuition, you also float endowment, whereby the school will be able to exist off the interest from the endowments. So there's a lot of different ways to sustain independent schools. We have the oldest African-centered independent school in America in Washington, D.C., who's run by a good friend of mine, an elder in our community, Father Zulu. Mm-hmm. It's the oldest, longest continuously open independent African school. So, there's no secret to how you keep a school sustained. He's done it for over 50 years. He's an elder of mine. I know other elders. I'm not new at this. I'm an educator. I've ran schools. So, there's nothing new about it. But in terms of the specifics of it, that's not the public's business. It's a business operation. And so the parents whose children will be allowed to attend FDMG, because we're going to do a lottery system, because I'm sure we won't have enough seats to accommodate everybody. They will know the inner workings of the school, but nobody gives out a business plan to the public, nor will I be doing that. But sustaining the school will not be an issue. My biggest issue is dealing with the children that I don't have seats for. That is my number one concern, because I'm now looking forward to the day where I have to tell a mother or a father, I'm sorry, but we're already past capacity. So my issue will not be expanding my school. My issue will be trying to build additional schools beyond that to accommodate all the children that cannot fit in the initial academy.
Do you take the same blueprint that you do from the initial school and, maybe franchise, or I don't understand the business concept, but make a second school? Is that the plan?
Of course, you replicate the school the same way the Catholic Church replicates their schools, the same way other type of independent school models replicate themselves. You take the same school model and you replicate it in other places. Ultimately, we're going to have a school district, because one school won't do. We will also have a vert school as well, which means children will be able to attend the school from home by tapping into the classroom electronically. So that's also another model that we'll be looking at. But because I am an educator who very much believes in the power of in-person education, I want to limit cyber school and virtual school as much as possible, because half of all learning is socialization and interaction, and I don't want children to lose that, which is why I'm not a big fan of cyber schools, because cyber schools where a computer teaches the child, they lose so much of the interaction that comes from being in their peers and having direct access to a teacher right in front of them.
Okay. just to spin this around just a little bit, we spoke about families, single families. We spoke about the community. We really didn't speak about men in today's society. What is your opinion of the African American male in today's society right now?
My opinion of the African American male, I think we have a lot of black men who do a good job being men. I think we have other African American men who would do a better job, but they need resources and opportunities. And then we do have some African American men who have been through some situations such in life where they no longer care about themselves or even other people. I think that we have far more good brothers with positive intentions than we have brothers without positive intentions. I know someone made a comment, I think it was you earlier on in the conversation, where you said some fathers don't step up. Now, as a therapist, I'm going to have to take a little bit of an issue with that. I do agree that there are some fathers who don't step up, but in my work in the schools and in my work as a therapist, I'm not finding that to be primarily the reason why the fathers are not there. Two of the biggest reasons I'm seeing for the rise of fatherless homes is, number one, there's the issue with sisters, financially successful and educationally elite sisters who have an issue sharing power in the household with their mates. This is a very big issue in the black household because only in the black community do the women out-earn and out-educate the men. And sometimes when you buy into the white supremacist ideology that the reason why your man doesn't make as much as you or has not been educated as well as you is because there's a character problem, there's a morality issue, there's a lack of a motivation, and that's not the case. Black men are systematically kept in the positions that they are in. So number one, there's that challenge in the home of some women who buy into this ideology that you don't have to respect black males. And then the other issue that I'm finding why a lot of fathers are not there is because the women do not allow the fathers, a lot of black women don't allow the fathers to participate in the children's lives if you don't want to be with her. I'm finding this a whole lot. I just had a case about 2 weeks ago where the mother told me that the father didn't want to be involved in her daughter's life. So I said, give me his number. I'm going to meet with the father. So I met with the father, and lo and behold, I found out that he was trying to be involved in his daughter's life, but the mother was constantly making it difficult for him to participate. So it's not always about the father not wanting to be there. We have to go beneath the surface. I actually am blessed to be in a position where I can get the truth from a situation, but some of us are real quick to jump to conclusions and blame fatherlessness on the father, when the truth of the matter is women are just as responsible as men are for why the fathers are not in the homes.
All right. Well, the two reasons you said that the men aren't, both of those reasons was based off a female. Are we putting any responsibility back on the individual males himself?
Of course, I was. Here we go again. I'm not saying men are not responsible. I'm saying, based on a comment you made earlier, that fathers are not stepping up. So you didn't put any responsibility on the women. So I'm balancing it out with your statement to say that men and women are responsible, and what we have to do is look at each individual's cases. Each family is totally different. It's like 3 cocaine addicts in front of me. Each one of those cocaine addicts will have a different reason why they're smoking. So even though they're all on cocaine, the treatment plans for each one of the addicts will be different. It's the same thing with family. I might be dealing with 3 different family therapy situations, and the issue, while the father is not in the home, might be totally different. In one case, it may be because he's domestically abusive. And that is one thing where black men need a lot of help. I'm going to straight up say that. Too many black women are being abused by black men. Too many black women are being abused by black men, and both the church and the masjid are complicit in this, because a lot of these women who are being abused are members of churches, and they are members of masjids where the imam and the preachers know that the men are beating on their wives and they do nothing about it. So if there's one big issue where black men do need a lot of help, it's in the area of domestic violence. A black woman is more likely to be physically abused and sexually abused than any other woman in American society.
Okay. All right. We spoke about black men. Let's see another one of my topics. Okay. What's on the table for you now? Now, you have the book. You have the book. The teleconference. Let's talk about the teleconference.
That's every Tuesday morning. It's a free black parent teleconference. It's a consult line where black parents can call in and get questions answered to any challenges they are experiencing regarding their child in the areas of education and mental health. I've been doing this, I think, I got to find out the first date because I forget the first date, but I think we may be coming up on 4 or 5 years now. I've been doing it quite some time, even since the last time I was principal of a school. So we've been doing this every week. Of course, there's some weeks where we don't have it if I'm traveling abroad or if a flight is running late or something of that matter. But it's helped a lot of parents. I can say through the grace of God, I get a credit to the Most High. I've helped a lot of parents on that call. I regularly get phone calls. I get text messages. I get emails from parents to say, thank you. You helped me save my child. And so any parent who needs expert advice from me, they can call that number, 857-232-0158, 857-232-0158. And the access code is 870-864-POUND, 870-864-POUND. Every Tuesday, 6 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. We often end up going longer because, like this past Tuesday, I did it from Durham, North Carolina, where I just spoke, and we was on the call until 9. Sometimes we're on the call until 10 or 11. That's how many parents really need that help. So that's something. And then we have the upcoming Black College and Consciousness Tour out of Atlanta, June 28th to July 12th. Anyone listening who has a black child between the ages of 11 and 17 and they would like to send them on a second annual Black College and Consciousness Tour, registration should be up soon on my website, drumarjohnson.com, as well as Prince of Pan-Africanism.eventbrite.com. And we're going to be taking them to Morehouse, to Clark, to Spelman, to the Dr. King Center, to the National Civil Rights Museum, to Tennessee State, South Carolina State, the Oyotunji African Village, the Charleston Slave Tour, the South Carolina Civil War Trail. We will be going to the Selma Civil Rights Institute, the Birmingham African Holocaust Institute. We're going to walk across the Pettus Bridge that Dr. King and others walked across in the Selma Montgomery March. So it's going to be a very, very, very powerful experience for our young people. So again, anyone with children 11 to 17, 14 days and 14 nights consecutively. The cost of the tour is $3,500, but I will be paying $1,500 of that. I use the money made during my lectures to help parents offset the cost. No money is made from the tour, so parents only have to pay $2,000. And we're also going to be doing a second tour for the 18 to 25-year-olds. The 18 to 25-year-olds will be doing the North Tour out of New York. And I haven't set the date for that yet, but they'll be going to the Apollo, the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center. They'll be going to Cheney, Lincoln, Howard, Coppin, Bowie, Morgan, the African Holocaust Institute, Harriet Tubman Museum, Harriet Tubman Home, Frederick Douglass Grave, Benjamin Banneker Home, the Nat Turner Trail. And speaking of the Nat Turner Trail, this August the 21st, which is the anniversary of the commencement of the Nat Turner War in 2017, we will all be on Nat Turner land, where the revolution took place. All of you are invited. Everyone in Charlotte is invited. The whole Black America is invited. And we're going to politic with each other and network with each other and fraternize and fellowship with each other as we remember Nat Turner in the greatest war waged by an African against white supremacy on this soil. And the reason we're doing it this year is because the next total solar eclipse will be on August the 21st, 2017. And it also coincidentally in 2017 this year there's two eclipses, one in February and one in August. And ironically, the year that Nat Turner led his rebellion, there was an eclipse in February and in August. So we don't believe in coincidences in African culture. We believe that's a message, not that it's time for us to go to war, but that it's time for us to bring about a resurrection of our people.
Okay. I have a question. I don't know if if you're comfortable with this one, but I want what is your take on Brother Polite? Is there a beef between you two, or you guys just don't?
I don't really beef with nobody. To be honest with you, I mean, there's been people in the conscious community who have made disrespectful, insulting videos assassinating my character. Brother Polite was one of them. But that happened some time ago. I don't hold grudges with anybody. So me personally, I don't have anything against the guy. I would just ask of anybody in the conscious community, if you ain't got something positive to say about me, just keep my name out your mouth. Okay. Not only him, Boyce Watkins, there's been other people who, from time to time have to mention me in a negative light. So my thing is, I never mention y'all. I never made a video about y'all. Don't mention me. Don't make a video about me. I'm not going to attack who you are and what you're doing. So there's no need to attack me and what I'm doing. But the reason why they do that is because, you know, within the black conscious movement, and not just the black consciousness, within, you know, the black community in general. You know, I'm one of the most popular scholars. I'm definitely the most requested scholar. You know, so there's that competition that sometimes can exist between brothers. There's animosities, you know, and petty jealousies that can be there. And I guess that's why people mention my name, because sometimes they can get more views and more attention mentioning me than mentioning themselves. And that's why they do that. But again, you know, I haven't heard of him, you know, saying anything against me for quite some time. So I don't have nothing against the brother. I wish him well with his work. I wish all the brothers out there well with their work, but just stay in your lane. I'm in my lane. I don't go in nobody else's lane. Just stay in your lane. I mean, all of us have our own gifts. We need to find our gifts and use it the best way we can to help our people. I'm on that perspective. We don't need to be fighting with each other over who's the top person and who's not the top person. God chooses your position, and the people confirm it.
Gotcha. I mean, I really didn't think it was anything, you know.
No, I ain't got
heavy.
no beef. I mean, normally when somebody mentions me, you know, I clap back at them, you know, verbally, say what I got to say, and I just move on from it, you know. But I've learned that because of my stature, you know, I'm an international personality. Most of these guys are local, but I'm international, so I got to be very careful because people watch me all over the place. When I get into something with somebody, I'll get emails from government officials from Africa. You know, I'll get emails from elders from Europe and elders from Jamaica, and, you know, so I got to be very careful. You know, I probably have the largest youth following of any scholar, probably one of the largest youth followings of any scholar in recent history, for that matter. I have a lot of people under the age of 21 who follow my work. I just got a text from a kid from Manchester, England today, 12 years old. He WhatsApped me, a young kid who met me the last time I was there. I was keynote speaker for the 70th anniversary of the 5th Pan-African Conference, which took place in Manchester, England. So I keynoted that, I think it was last October or the October before last, and I met a 12-year-old kid. Well, that 12-year-old kid, finally, after a year or two, sent me a WhatsApp message today and said, Dr. Umar, how you coming with the school? I hope the school comes. My mom plans on sending me there, yada, yada, yada. So I have to be very careful of how I conduct myself. I recently had a situation with a brother, and I didn't really respond to that situation in the way that people would have expected Dr. Umar Johnson to. So in 2017, you know, I've committed myself to trying to always put the best foot forward and show our young people how they should handle conflicts within the community. Because I'm going to get more attacks because I'm too successful. So I'm going to get more attacks. You know, more of them are going to come, but I do have to show a better way of handling that conflict because we got enough brothers killing brothers on the street. Of course, we're not going to engage in that behavior, but killing each other verbally isn't too much better than killing each other physically.
Amen. You know what? I was just about to chime in and say that because of current situations that are occurring in society now, in which we constantly, and it's so ironic that you even mentioned that, because as we constantly mention how the system is definitely, you know, played against us, and it's caused for us to be in a position in which we're downtrodden to a certain extent. It's just ironic that, you know, Jerome can go out here and shoot Clay either over a pair of shoes or a corner or a chick, and yet we're a minority. So, you know, the irony is, you know, we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to band together. We're supposed to, you know, clench that mighty fist against a common foe, but we're out here killing each other. You know, we're out here degrading each other on YouTube and saying certain things about each other, and, you know, even in our own dialogue, you know, we tend to become very we tend to edify ourselves and stuff, and we forget that, you know, a lot of times, you know, it's these people that are watching us, that are listening to us, that are following us, that helped us get to where we are. So when we show out and we put ourselves in that position, it's an insult to them, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you.
I have a question for you from Facebook. One of my listeners from Facebook, Gerard Crawford, he wants to ask, is there going to be a Hidden Colors 5?
I'm not sure. Tariq Nasheed is the producer of that, so he would probably need to get in contact with that brother. I decided that Hidden Colors 3 would be the last one that I would participate in. Okay. Not for any malicious reasons, but because I'm working on my own set of documentaries. We're working on one right now, the Shock documentary, the psychoacademic war against black boys. And so I'm going to put out a series of documentaries that is going to chronicle the war against our children in public-private parochial school, as well as juvenile prison, and as well as in American society as a whole. So I had to pull back from participating in so many other documentaries so I can focus on the one that I'm working on right now.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Snick, are you still mad?
I'm not upset.
She's not upset.
I'm not upset.
No, listen, let me say this. I apologize to my queen if she felt that I was disrespecting her in any way. So, sister, I love you. I would die for you. I would live for you as well. And I meant no ill feelings, and I apologize to you if in any way I contributed to any feelings on your part that I may have insulted you. I deeply apologize for that.
Hello?
Thank you.
Feel the love.
I swear. Okay, Dr. Umar, Kerry, got any more questions?
You know what? I think this has been very engaging, and the only other question that I would have would be,
Come on now.
Well, I'm thinking about the school. No, seriously, I'm thinking about the school because, I mean, he's been working on it for quite some time. And, you know, and when I asked the question earlier in regards to as far as the funding and stuff, it was by no means trying to get into the business plan thereof, because I know, you know, my business plan is my business plan for my things here in you know, East Coast and vice versa. My thing is, and I think you may have answered it already in regards to a scholarship, you know, for many of the youth. That to me, that speaks volumes. That's important because a lot of times, you know, again, some of these parents cannot afford some of these programs, and it's great that, you know, you can offer, you know, a deserving child the opportunity. So I think he answered it already. So that's cool. That's very cool.
I also think that is a opportunity that a lot of community-based organizations and churches could fill. I really think that, you know, since operating the school and keeping it afloat is enough responsibility for me, I really think that's where the community need to step up. That's where the churches and the fraternities and the sororities and the Masonic lodges and the different community-based organizations can say, listen, the least we can do is pay at least the tuition for one kid to attend this school. If the tuition is $500 a month, we should be able to pay for at least one kid. You know, if all the organizations we have, and you know we got tens of thousands of them, if all the community-based organizations would only commit to sponsoring one kid to attend the school, I think the entire student population could attend at a 100% free tuition if they had everyone paying for them. You know, but I'm going to challenge parents too. I'm going to challenge parents who say they can't pay it. Because I'm willing to bet if I go into their home, I can find that tuition. First of all, you're going to have to stop getting your hair done twice a month, okay? Then we're going to have to stop buying him Air Jordans. And then we got to look at that cable bill. You can have cable, but you don't need every channel that's in creation. I mean, you got a Mercedes-Benz out there, but you're talking about you can't afford the tuition. You know, I noticed, you know, it's about priorities. What I find, it's about priorities. It's really about priorities. You know, it's just like when you went to college. Think about all the students who had to take a semester off because they didn't have their tuition bill, but they always had fresh Timbs on. They always had a nice car. They always had the lovely coats. It's like, wait a minute now. How is it you got money to look fly, but you ain't got money to pay your tuition? A lot of times it's not that we can't afford it, it's that we don't want to pay for it. We don't value things that are necessary. I mean, that has always been an issue with us since slavery. We love to spend money on things we want and beg for the things we need. And that comes from conditioning, because in slavery, you were not supposed to be concerned about your future. Your whole life belongs to your slave master. You don't need no life insurance. You know, you don't need no college tuition fund. You know, you don't need to be saving for no marriage. I own you. You exist at my pleasure. You exist for my benefit. You don't exist for your own benefit. And so that mindset of living for today and not living for the next generation has really intergenerationally infected us as a people. So much of how we think and so much of how we act is still rooted in slavery. It's amazing when I hear black people say slavery's over, we should stop talking about it. No, we still behave like slaves. The one thing slavery did to black people, what clearly shows the impact of slavery on us, especially in comparison to other groups, is we're the only people in America who are absolutely comfortable having other people control their reality. We're comfortable having our kids be taught by white women. We're comfortable praying to a white Jesus. We're comfortable not controlling the churches. We're comfortable not controlling the politicians. We're comfortable having Chinese restaurants in every corner. We're comfortable with the European Jews dominating the banks. We're comfortable with other people controlling the most important and vital functions and institutions in our community. Chinese people would go crazy if most of their kids were taught by black teachers. You know, European Jews would lose their mind if most of their banks were owned by Germans. You know, Anglo-Saxons would go crazy if their kids had to be taught by Mexicans. Mexicans would lose their mind if they were dependent on Arabs for anything. We're the only people in America who are absolutely comfortable having no power over our reality. And that is a direct psychological side effect of slavery.
Dr. Johnson, I have to tell you, I agree with everything that you just said. In regards to the conditioning of the African American person here today, I agree 100%. That's an argument I've had many a time when I was in college and doing papers and doing research. So yes, I agree totally on that. You know, we're the biggest consumers, yet we make the least amount of money. I totally agree with that.
So okay, so I got to throw in on that as well, because that's something that has come up numerous times throughout multiple discussions at various forums in light of recent events with various shootings that are going on with our young African American men. You know, the police departments being held under scrutiny, then all of a sudden they're getting off. Whatever the case may be, that topic has always come up. And during these forums, during these marches, come what may, everybody says, well, we need to do this. We need to become self-sufficient. We need to have our own banks. We need to have our own stores. We need to do this and do that. So here's my challenge and my question that I've asked constantly several times, and it seems like it never happens, or I can't get a good answer. If we were to do something like that, in other words, have our own schools, have our own banks, which we do.
Yes, we do.
We do. But, you know, we rather go get the toaster that is at the other place rather than invest in our own bank.
Correct. We want name brand.
Exactly. All these things that we could do, but we won't do. Or, as some of our younger individuals would say, yeah, we just need to pull our money out, and we need to do this and we need to do that. Where's the plan?
Right.
Where's the plan? You know, what do we have initially set forth and in motion right now? So therefore, people can pull their monies out of Bank of America and go to mechanics and farmers. Right. Or where can we see a school that is built primarily for African American youth and have the teachers that are available to teach in them, have the support system in there to run it, have the financial backing to support it,
and giving a quality education.
Exactly. Or even to the grocery stores, to have a grocery store that is for us, by us, providing fresh produce, organic produce, organic meats and things of that nature, healthy items, and have an individual that's there to teach how we can eat healthy and such. You know, I just had to throw that in there because I hear that a lot of times from our people in regards to what we need to do, but no one can never come up with a plan
on how to get it done. No one can execute it.
Or not only that, not only execute it, but stay with it.
Right.
To be involved in it for the long term.
Right. Because we have a lot of places that come up, but then they don't succeed.
They don't.
Right.
They don't. And then we don't have, and then it goes back to, again, individuals that have that knowledge, but it seems like it never gets any further. So that's my question. I just wanted to throw it out there to you guys to see what your response.
No, that's a good point. When you talk about readiness for revolution, and when I use the word revolution, I'm not necessarily talking about armed conflict with another group. I'm talking about internal revolution, because we need an internal revolution. We need internal reparations. Before we can get any external reparations, we need internal reparations. There's 5 assessments that I say you have to make on every African mind to determine if they're ready for revolution. Number 1, are they committed to African people? What the 2 of you just spoke about, you and the Queen, y'all just spoke about commitment. Y'all said stuff gets started and it never gets finished. You know why? We're not committed to each other. Black people have very little commitment to anything that's going to benefit black folks. We can't stand each other. We will fight for another people. We will fight for the gays. We will fight for this. We will fight for that. But we will not fight for ourselves. So you got to look at commitment. And then the other thing I spoke of is consistency. The second C is consistency. You might have a emotional commitment or a psychological commitment to African people. That's good. That's necessary. You understand? But are you consistent? And consistency speaks to your behavior. See, consistency goes beyond the mental and the emotional commitment to black folks. But you have a lot of people who love black folks. But when you look at their behavior towards changing things, they ain't done that but talk. So where is your consistency? And then you need courage. And courage is a big issue in our community. It's a very big issue because most of us don't have the courage to speak truth to power. Most of us don't have the boldness to confront white supremacy. We don't. We don't have the boldness to confront the school system. We don't have the boldness to confront the judges. We don't have the boldness to confront the president. I mean, look during Barack Obama's presidency. Most black people were totally intimidated against holding him accountable, and because of that, he did nothing for us. You see? So you got your courage, your consistency, your commitment, and then you have to look at your creativity. Creativity speaks to your work. What are you doing to help us? Everybody should have something they're working on that's going to make the African reality better today than what it is tomorrow. That's the creativity, okay? And then the last one is the consciousness. How knowledgeable are you about what goes on in our world? For example, everybody knows there's a problem in the school. They know the schools don't work. They know the schools are miseducating black kids. But do you really understand the internal mechanics? I might know my car ain't running. I might know that my car has a problem. It ain't running. But do I know why it's not running? So it's not just enough to be able to identify the problem. You have to understand, and overstand. You have to understand, and overstand the problem in order for you to change it. And as Amos Wilson said, one of our greatest scholars who's no longer here, who was also a Garyite psychologist, he said if you look close enough at a problem, and being a psychologist, I know why he said this. He said if you look close enough at a problem, the solution is staring at you in your face. Because no problem can be solved without a thorough understanding of how it was created. What's the first thing you do when you go to the hospital when you're sick? Well, he does a history. The doctor asks you what you ate, when was the last time you were sick, da-da-da-da. The doctor does a history on you. When you're going to psychotherapy, we do a history on you. When you go get your car fixed, they do a history. Everybody does a history on the problem except black folks. We do not do a history on how we got here so we can backtrack and fix it. People say, no, I don't want to go back in the past. I don't want to look back. No, let's just go forward. Well, guess what? There will be no going forward until you understand what has already happened behind you. That's why in African culture we have the symbol of the Sankofa bird, Sankofa, the Ghanaian principle of going back to fetch that which is useful. And I want to underline which is useful. Because there's a lot you can study in black history. There's a lot you can study in African history. And I would even argue that too many of us are studying things that are irrelevant to our political economic time of day. I'm only interested in studying those aspects of black African history that can inform my strategy for the present. If it cannot inform my strategy and tactic for the present, it's actually useless. Because I cannot live off the accomplishments of my ancestors. I have to live off my own accomplishments. I have to create a world for my children. And simply giving them a black history book and telling them they built the pyramids is not going to be sufficient when they ain't got clothes on their back, food in their stomach, or a roof over their heads.
Amen. All right, I have 2 more questions, and we got about 10 more minutes left. Really, like 8.
Sure. Okay.
This is from Anthony Welch. He wants to know, are you going to debate with Sarah? Now, excuse me if I pronounced his name wrong. Sarah Sutton Sadai, or are you going to build with one another?
Nah, we may build with each other, but there will be no debates. That's behind us now. That was 2016. It's the new year, 2017. So I'm moving forward in positive energy. But one thing I am going to do, and if there's anyone listening to your show who would like to be a part of this, they can let me know. I will be hosting a first annual International Black Consciousness Convention, and it's probably going to be held in New York City. First annual International Black Consciousness Convention, where everybody who's into black consciousness, knowledge of ourselves, improving our people, can come together in politics and engage one another and strategize and begin to build the reality that we need. Because one thing about the black consciousness movement, and of course, I kind of supersede that and I deal with the whole black community, not just the black conscious community, but there's a lot of contradictions in black consciousness. And I would say the biggest contradiction within black consciousness today is that we largely operate just like the church that we claim is at the center of the problems that face black people. I mean, when you hear a lot of brothers and sisters in the conscious community, they condemn the church. They say the church got our people brainwashed, the church is taking out people's money. But how are we any better? I mean, if the pastor is pimping people by using the Bible, okay, then how is the conscious community any different if you're pimping people by using Black history? I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have any solutions in place, nor does the church have any solutions in place. So how can you condemn an institution that you're actually imitating?
Okay. All right, second question. This is from Zach Heath. He wants to know, what does he think? What do you think about today's music and the downfall of the youth, if any at all? And
I believe. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was just another small part. And they have a responsibility. Any responsibilities as an artist? Do any of these artists have responsibilities?
Yes, they do. And I'm tired of Black recording artists evading responsibility, talking about they're not role models and parents should raise their own kids. That's a bunch of nonsense. That's a bunch of nonsense, because you want people to buy your albums and listen to them so you can get paid. So don't sit here and say parents need to be raising the kids when you're also raising the kids by putting out that despicable music. Now, I do take an issue with Black parents, and this is something I'm clearly going to hold parents responsible for, not the community, and that is not policing the music that their children listen to. Black parents let their kids listen to everything. There's no reason a 7, 8-year, 9-year-old kid should be listening to gangster rap. Absolutely not. And I hear the excuses, well, I want my son to understand this and I want my son to understand that. Okay, well, let him listen to a couple songs. But to let him get programmed and indoctrinated with gangster rap by listening to it all the time, there's no way you're going to chalk that up to him simply learning about the world he lives in. That's nonsense. Here's the thing. Gangster rappers didn't create crime. They didn't create self-hatred. They didn't create misogyny. They didn't create mass incarceration. But guess what? They do glamorize it. They do advertise it, and they do promote it. And in so doing, you do contribute to the contextual climate that makes it more easy for those types of behaviors to be committed. There's 4 elements that are present in every single gangster rap song that you hear. I don't care who you listening to. They might have a different style. They might be from a different city. They may come with a different flow. Okay, it may have a different beat, but it's the same 4 elements. And those are conspicuous consumption. Okay, buying things that white people make is more important than anything else in the world. So you gotta have the most expensive car, Louis Vuitton, Gucci rags. You know, everything gotta be. You gotta buy junk, garbage. They worship materialism. So that's number 1. Conspicuous consumption. Number 2, misogynistic behavior. Have sex with as many different women as you possibly can, taking no responsibility for them, and they still normally call Black women the B-word. So there is that misogyny. So you got materialism, misogyny, and then you have extermination. They glamorize killing other Black men. They never talk about killing white folks. You never hear that. It's all about killing Black folks. The whole rap song, it's all about conflict with other Black males. And then the 4th thing is going to jail. They glamorize going to jail. You see? And those are 4 big issues that the Black community has that our gangster rappers are advertising, condoning, and promoting. So there's no way you're going to tell me you're not responsible for the current climate of dysfunction in Black youth when you are their role models, you are the people they listen to, and you have the greatest influence over them. It's true that when a rapper says, I'm only rapping about my reality. Okay, I can understand that. An artist is supposed to reflect the reality. But guess what? We had poets during the Harlem Renaissance, James Baldwin and Paul Laurence Dunbar and others. They didn't just reflect their reality. They also tried to promote a new reality that they wanted Black people to buy into. So yes, you might read some James Baldwin, you might read some Paul Laurence Dunbar where they reflected the negativity of the hood. But then you'll read another poem or another book or another essay where they promote and project a new image for the Black community. And that's where the gangster rappers have to be held accountable. They are not promoting and condoning and advertising a more constructive view of the Black community.
Okay, all right. Dr. Umar, it's been great. You know what? This whole time, even though today is the last official day that President Obama will be in office, the inauguration is tomorrow for Donald Trump. Real quick, what is? I already know what you feel about Obama. So what do you feel about Trump?
Okay, 3 things that African Americans got to prepare for under Donald Trump. Thanks to Barack Obama and thanks to ourselves. When Barack Obama became president of the United States, we were still the priority minority in this country. For 43 presidents, we were the priority minority. Mm-hmm. Under Donald Trump, for the first time, because Obama's presidency, I consider that a transition period. So I'm going to say for Donald Trump, for the first time, Black America, and you're talking since America has been America since 1776, about almost 250 years now. For the first time in over 250 years, you will no longer be the priority minority. Before, presidents had to deal with us. Before, presidents had to address us. Before, presidents had to say something for or against black folks. We were the priority minority. We were an issue that presidents had to define themselves against. Not any longer. We allowed Barack Obama to effectively take our agenda off the table forever. So under this presidency, we have to fight to reclaim our priority minority status. We may be an invisible people. Ralph Ellison, again, one of our great writers, he talked about the invisible man, about being there and not being there. Well, during the Trump presidency, black people are going to become the invisible people unless we don't stand up and show out. Number two, under the Donald Trump era, you're also going to see a return of white racist nationalism like you've never seen it before. Okay, civil rights is out the window. Etiquette is out the window. We're going to deal with a lot more racial incidents under Donald Trump. And not because he's promoting it, but because he symbolizes a return to the old white America. And because he is the symbol of that, white folks are going to use that as the energy that drives their racist behaviors against black folk. And number three, it's the age of extermination. I really think we have to redefine who we are under the Trump era. If we are as we are now when Donald Trump leaves office, whether it's 4 years or 8 years, I think it would only be a matter of time before black people are completely exterminated. And I hate to say that, but this is a critical period for us. We are at a critical juncture in African history. We are at a point of no return where either we're going to stand up and do for self or we're going to go quietly to the cemetery as an entire people.
Okay. Before we get up out of here, plug the book. Where can they find your book? How can anybody that
Psychoacademic Holocaust, Special Education, and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. If anybody needs the book, they can email me, and I will send them a link to purchase it, and I will mail it out. Again, drumarjohnson.com or drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. You can also text me, 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. If you want the book, I will send you a link to pay for the book, and I will ship it on out to you. So that's not an issue there. Do not buy my book off of Amazon. Do not buy my book off of Amazon. Do not buy my book off of Amazon. I was in Raleigh, Durham the other night, and I found 2 bootleg books. I found 2 bootleg versions of my book. I found a couple in Memphis. Somebody is bootlegging my book. We're trying to find out who that person is.
Wow.
But please don't buy it offline, because not only are they charging you more, it's not even the real book. So please buy directly from me. I'm self-published.
Wow.
So there's no other way to get my book. If you didn't get it from me, it's automatically a counterfeit because I'm a self-published author.
Wow. Okay. All right. Any closing remarks for you guys?
I'm going to remember this interview, and I'm going to remember this interview not only because I think it was a good one, and I think it started kind of testy, but it ended up extremely positive. It's the last interview that I'm doing under the Barack Obama administration. So if you guys need to make a mark of this, I'm gonna make a. No, I'm serious. This is
historic.
To some extent, it's historical, and it's very relevant for me in my personal history, because until you said that, I didn't even realize it. But this is the last radio interview that I'll do under the Obama administration, so I won't forget this night.
Well, I'm glad you shared it with us.
Certainly.
Indeed.
And please send me a link so I can put it on, promote it on my social network pages and let everybody know that this was Dr. Umar's last interview with the Obama administration. I'm sure it's going to be widely listened to for no other reason than that. But of course, it was a great dialogue as well.
I would chop it up and probably put it in SoundCloud and send you the link.
Sure.
All right, it's time to go. It's 10 o'clock. Big time show is coming up next. Dr. Umar Johnson, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Yes,
Anytime.
thank you.
Take care, family. You too, love. Love you, sister. Y'all be safe.
All right, you too.
All right.
All right, we up out of here. We are up out of here. It's been a hell of a day. Hell of a ride.
Oh, yeah.
It has been very interesting.
Yeah. And, I was like, we missed a whole half an hour?
Yeah.
I don't like people being late now, Umar. I don't like nobody being late.
Don't drop the doctor like you just know him like that now, right?
And he came with it.
But he came. He showed up and showed out, so that's for sure.
We definitely enjoyed that interview. All right, we up out of here. We will see you tomorrow.
Yes, we will see you tomorrow. Let them know.
Yes. Sir?
Yes.
Plug.
He ain't say nothing this time.
Yeah, really.
He ain't say nothing this time.
Didn't say anything. I'm still in that Umar zone. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Check me out, Kerry Digsby. Urban Times Magazine, www.urbantymes.com. And also check out my personal website for motivational tidbits, positive speaking, positive words in your spirit. It's www.careydigsby.com. And thank you, Power 104. Holiday.
Stop it.
Snicker. I made a new friend.
Friends.
Again, man, you're